what they're actually giving you. So it's one cask beginning to end. And in this case, it's the Dumangin Ratafia casks. Oh, wow. Does smell like rye. We still have that nice spiciness, those dark fruits and raisins, a little earthiness even, but a hint of sweetness.
Yeah,
Even
for
a
me,
bit
it's
of
a little bit
mint.
of a chocolate, like a dark chocolate,
Mm.
mushroom.
I didn't realize my camera was off. Sorry, Sammy and everybody. I would agree with you on the chocolate and mushroom. It definitely has this like earthy quality to it. Um, on the palate, it's really nice. It's got a nice sweet rye, um, more chocolate, I would say, on the palate, and nice soft spices with like this just this nice kind of burnt like brown sugar note.
Yeah, it's not overly too spicy, which is actually quite nice for rye. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a few notes on Dumoulin as I'm generally when we talk about them in our store, we're talking about Dumangin, the wine producer, and I know that's a favorite topic for our store. We're talking about Dumangin. We love our champagne exclusives that we get from them, and they've been making champagne for a very long time. They've been making champagne for over 130 years and are growers of champagne. And Gilles Dumangin is the fifth generation champagne maker in his family, which is very cool. If I had to go into the family business, I would be a farmer in BC and not hanging out with you guys. So I'm glad that's not the requirement for me. Um, but Dumangin started producing Ratafia champagnes and for a while now, and the spirit's a little bit similar to the grape spirit Pinot de Charente, where it's just got a little bit of sweetness um, to it. And they're using the leftover champagne grapes, sometimes mixing it with a little grappa and distilling it into into a spirit that he uses to season casks. That his dream was with these seasoned casks, he would age some whiskey in. And I think ideally it was Scotch. Um, and if it is Scotch, he's taking those seasoned casks that he has and shipping them to Scotland. The desire is so that he can still bottle his spirits as Scotch, and it's just the finishing process that is a little bit more unique. So beginning to end, he's following the rules for single malt whiskey. I imagine he's a little bit more flexible on his bourbons and ryes. He doesn't have to necessarily ship the casks to Holland or to Texas to bottle these spirits. Um, but I imagine he can. But I think there's some flexibility for him to order in new make spirit, fill the casks on site, and kind of do his own overseeing of the maturation process. Um, I'm truly not sure if that's what he's doing with this Dutch rye or these blue corns. I imagine he has to leave the Texas single malt casks in Texas to get that certification. But I would like to do some further research because I'm curious to know if these blue corn ryes and blue corn coming up and the Dutch rye were actually perhaps matured in Champagne or if they were matured in their spirit production locations. Sammy, I know you like your French spirits. Are you a Ratafia drinker?
Some of them are a little bit too sweet for me. Yeah, some of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Well, we have a Dumangin, a tasting no few, I don't know, a few months ago. We are
Mhm.
actually have some Ratafias.
Yeah, and I know some are young,
Yeah.
and then some that we have are really old, like 16 years old, which
Yeah, that
is
one is actually quite nice. It's not as sweet.
more barrel influence, I would
Yep.
assume. Yeah. Did anyone add water? It doesn't, I don't think it needs it, but in that, it is a sweeter spirit. I added just a drop and it really makes the nose more expressive. And I get a lot more of those nutty tones coming out of it that I didn't expect from this rye, but it's really lovely. Palate's still nice. In fact, with a little bit of water, it shows the rye to me a lot more. It gets those earthy notes, and more oak. I'm definitely getting, yeah, crazy. Like green peppers, mushrooms, definitely that oak note, Jim, for sure. And just a touch of something polish like, whether it's just like a soft varnish or a wood wax. Um, but the
It's like a
finish,
peppermint, like, extract, like, the one you use for cooking.
a
Oh,
peppermint
oh,
extract.
yeah.
Okay. But before you use it, I feel like it's just more the extract note, not in the spirit. Very cool. Well,
Yeah,
I have to say I'm a fan of the Zuidam Dutch rye. I know that Kensington Wine Market had a single cask of the Millstone Rye. I hope in the future we'll get another opportunity to do one.
so
But
do
I'm
you
a
think that
fan
wood
of,
wax note, wax note is not actually often present in actually American ryes? Is it just because of like the type of rye that's being used? Because like it reminds me, I had another Dutch rye a while back and it tastes exactly the same. So
oh, interesting.
that
I'm
wax
not
note.
really sure exactly. I know that the Ratafia itself is matured for about 6 to 9 years in wine barriques from the northern Côtes du Rhône region, and it gives the Ratafia a little bit more of a tannic touch. And perhaps that is leaning into the spirit a little more as well. But I don't know, maybe we need to do like a world rye tasting and do some comparisons on these grains because I kind of like it. It works for me. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's move to our second whiskey tonight. It's the Dumangin Whiskey Bourbon, 36% rye. Can't, so I don't know which one is this. There's no comma, so I'm not sure, guys, if it's the bourbon that's 36% or the rye that's 36%.
No, I think on the box it's actually 36% rye. It was a comma after bourbon. I picked up some
Oh,
cases at the warehouse today, so I saw the box.
you saw some
I saw a
boxes.
label. Yeah.
Mm. I do have the link here, and you're absolutely right, Sammy. It is a rye or bourbon, pardon me.
It has to be, right? Like otherwise you cannot call it bourbon.
Yeah, well, I just thought maybe it was like a high rye mash bill of like 36% rye. So here's our screen of the whiskey, 216 bottles. Very cool. The nose, what's the alcohol? 55.2. I'm surprised I'm not getting that level of alcohol on the nose of the spirit. There's some nice butterscotch and kind of like raspberry date notes. Hmm. Definitely that hint of bourbon in there. Like it smells like a bourbon. Oh, definitely more oak forward than the last one that we tried. Um,
And
It's
also
definitely
got quite a cereal
syrup.
on cereal. Yeah.
Oh yes, austere. Yeah, spicier too. Yeah, you got uh, peppers and ginger and even some like nice, you get the tannins too, I think, from those wine casks more. Almost like a hint of day old coffee. It's
I have no comment on that.
like it's not that vibrant, like fresh chocolate note that I get from my coffee bean. It's like you smell the day old coffee when you're rinsing it out. It has that level of feeling to me and dryness. I'm afraid to add water to this because but I do find it dry. I'm gonna add a touch of water and see if that really austere oak note.
I think it's better with water harmony.
You think so?
Yeah.
I agree with you. You get a little bit less oak on it, more fruits, and even a hint of like black tea, like your London fog tea. Um, a little bit of soy sauce on there for me. Kind of into your hoisin note. But yeah, it's actually I do like it more with water. I think water doesn't hurt this at all. This would be a nice one to just put on a nice ice cube or something. Or just add a drop of water and enjoy it as is, not let the water do any more to it. But it's kind of nice. It's a nice bourbon. We don't see a ton of wine finished bourbons out there, and when we do, they're typically, your California cab that comes through. In the chat, we have notes of oversteeped English, breakfast tea, and oak, and maybe a musty storage. I would agree with those notes for sure. There's like a little bit of mustiness to it, and again, I would assume that's the wine cask and the spirit itself, and just adding a fun note to that whiskey. So staying in America, as our tasting alluded to, we're going to try some Balcones blue corn whiskey, or just blue, I mean, it has to be whiskey, I guess. Blue corn. I've only had this once, a blue corn from Boutique, never a distillery bottling of their blue corn. Although I was gifted a mini, I couldn't open it. So if you guys are experienced Balcones drinkers, I'd love to hear how it contrasts the regular spirit. Oh, it smells dense and heavy.
It's not as creamy, as the other one.
No.
The last one for me has like a hint of like a crème brûlée nose to it. This one is, yeah, without like that creaminess.
And this one I'm finding has more of that polish note. That polish note is coming through a bit more, but there is some fruit notes in here that are starting to slowly creep out.
Yeah, like a stone fruit, like a guava.
Yeah, it's a dried apricot to me, and dried blueberries. And I don't know if I'm just putting it in my own mind because it says blue and I want a blue fruit in there. But yeah, there's definitely a stone fruit. The palate is quite sweeter than I would have assumed from the nose, though. That surprises me. I'm curious. We don't have a very big group tonight, guys, so I would be open to sharing the floor if anybody has anything to say. I have to admit was kind of thrown into this tasting last minute and had never done a Dumangin tasting before, and sometimes my opinion becomes narrow when I talk about wine casks, but then I also feel ill prepared having never had education on Ratafia before.
Yeah. Well, this is not really exactly a fresh wine. They use the leftover grape must, for making champagne. It's a leftover
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I get a little medicinal note on the finish.
Mhm. Yeah, there's something there. It is a slightly medicinal. Tim said it's got a creosote smell to it. Yeah, I could see that. It's definitely, and also for me, it's leaning into oh man, what is that note? It's not black licorice, but it's like leaning towards that black licorice candy note. But yeah, it's very interesting. Blue corn. Those crazy kids just can't be happy with regular corn. Tootsie Roll, kind of chocolatey. Yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that.
It is a little thicker and heavier, like you said in the beginning too, for
Yeah,
sure.
it just smells heavy,
Mhm.
like a like a fruit cake, you know. It's just got that density. Very cool though. I mean, all right. Just nosing the other bourbon. Yeah, the other bourbon is like bright candy and sweetness, and then this one is it's just dense and heavy fruits and a little bit of chocolate. I actually think that the cask does nicely with these whiskeys. Like it's not fighting it too much, and it doesn't just taste like all the bourbons are the same. Right? Nobody likes that. Hey, Cam.
That's
All
right,
right.
Harmony. You finally converted me.
I know, I just took you moving across the country. Okay, so let's change gears into something we're a little bit more familiar with in these tastings, which is the single malt whiskey. And this one just happens to be from Texas. It's a 2017. I like the transparency, although I don't know what they mean. I like that they put their cask numbers on there, T-022. I don't know what that means, other than probably Texas. Or what have you, but maybe it's a warehouse type. Maybe it's just the coding for Dumangin is T. But it's kind of fun. It feels like they're giving you all the information, even though I don't know what it means. Sammy, what do you think of this one on the nose?
It's a little bit spicier compared to the last one, but not as heavy and dense. It's somewhere in between, those two we tried earlier.
Yeah, this has definitely like more of those like funky wine notes and polish. There's a weird smell in here I can't quite place. It's not bad. I enjoy nosing it.
You mean like cantaloupe?
Cantaloupe?
Like,
I'm sure you're getting cantaloupe. I don't describe cantaloupe as weird. This is weird. Something is weird in here. Gym socks has been well, maybe. Been a long time since I've been in gym class, but dirty socks for sure. Go with it. Jeff would like to agree with you that liking cantaloupe is weird. So I'm not sure what a wet bucket is, but maybe like wet basket. Like I could see like a wet burlap sack or some sort of woven basket that hasn't been set out to dry. Jim says it's something like you smell at the dentist. Yeah, it's weird, and I don't like the dentist. Maybe that's why I'm struggling. The palate actually, though, is not bad. It's it's more food driven than I expected. Like I'm getting a lot of like soy sauce and hoisin, brown sugar.
That's what I'm getting on the nose too.
You're getting
The
that
the
too?
soy sauce, the hoisin,
Yeah, I like beef
and the
bouillon.
sweetness.
Yeah. Kevin just said teriyaki. That's a
Yeah,
wicked note. Yeah. It's got that food pairing. It's ready for Chinese food.
Japanese.
Or Japanese. All the places. And Jeff says there's a lot of Ratafia on this. Just throw it out there, Kevin. We'll see if it bounces.
getting some tea notes as well on the palate.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I can like you can even smell like there's something going on. But yeah, I think there's a lot more wine influence to this one because there still is that kind of musty sweetness. And I think it's pretty cool. There's a lot of like roasted nuts, and even just a little bit of like overcooked raspberry, just like slightly overcooked fruit. Just a touch of cough syrup. I will add my drop of water. Again, it doesn't need it.
I didn't like it with water.
No, you did. I should have asked. I should have asked first. Yeah, I agree, Igor. It's weird, but somehow it works. It does. It works just fine. It's a very interesting spirit, and it's one that I think I could, ooh, let's do something different. Let's have the Ratafia Texas malt and just enjoy that with some friends.
I think you're muted, Harmony.
Weird. I muted to cough, but then I muted 6 times. Sorry, guys. I was saying we're moving into the other side of the world. We're heading to India. In brackets, Paul John ? On your label. So Paul John is a whiskey that we do get here in Canada. We've explored their PX cask and some peated and the occasional Christmas dram, which is a whole bunch of casks. This one's bottled at 46.4. And I'm not gonna lie, I wish this was peated just because I love Paul John peated. But here we go. Sweet. It's got those sweet raisins and fruit notes. It smells like like wine more than whiskey to me on the nose. It's very fruit forward. What are you getting, Sammy?
On the palate, it's kind of weird. It got a savory note to it.
Savory notes. Vincent says it's got Sarsi, his grandma's favorite pop. I'm not familiar with that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's one of those like really popular Italian, like I don't know what they use. It's like a liquid pop.
Oh, cool.
Consider that, yeah.
It's old people Coke. Does it still have Coke in it? Like the old recipe? Um, yeah, this has got like a really fun sweet nose. There is something herbaceous in here, Jeff. I would agree with you. It kind of reminds me of the bottle of Amaro that I broke on Sunday, which was the Cynar, the artichoke Amaro. It definitely reminds me a little bit of this. In fact, I could see this being used in a cocktail. Actually, it has this wonderful flavor to it. I like the nose a lot. Palate is a little dry. My dog just crop dusted me. So I'm getting a lot of dog fart, which is not fair for this whiskey. I'm gonna need Sammy to jump in on the finish.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, on the drier side. Like for me, it kind of remind me, like drinking Fino.
Okay.
Yeah, like it has a little bit like a savory note to it.
Yeah. To me, this feels more like something you would add into a cocktail, like an Amaro, like a little
Yeah.
bit of sweet, a little bit of
Yeah.
bitter, and it just kind of shake things up a little bit. Yeah. I know I wish I knew more about French spirits. I got my eyes opened on the weekend by Igor's Armagnac Cognac Calvados tasting, and it makes me want to explore more spirits. And these Ratafia finishes are actually they're surprising me, to be honest, because I've had different types of fortified wine casks, and sometimes the casks, I mean, Sauternes always has this like really musty, moldy grape note, and it's hard to balance that out for me in my palate. And so some of them are really excellent, and then others I just kind of struggle with and feel there's too much wine. So I feel like I'm in a weird place here where I'm not familiar or overly familiar with some of the spirit types, not familiar with the cask type, not familiar with the signature profile of the Northern Côtes du Rhône casks. So I'm in this place where I have no negative or any comparisons, positive or negative, to compare any of these two. And so I'm just enjoying the ride, which is cool because I feel like I have no biases ready. If that makes any sense. But
Well,
I'm enjoying the sweeter side of these whiskeys where they're enjoyable and they're sweet, but I don't feel like I'm just drinking the cask, if that makes sense.
yeah, Ratafia basically similar, to like a port, yeah, like that type of like, fortified wine, similar, just
Yeah,
different the grapes,
yeah,
side
yeah.
method.
Kind of like, I don't know. I like it. Spicy, woody, incense, kind of musty. Sandalwood, yeah, I could see that. But again, slightly sweeter. Sandalwood with like a bowl of brown sugar next to it. Okay. The next carrots. Sure you do, Kevin. Are you eating a carrot? I'm not falling for that again. I'm on to you. Kevin has no tasting kit in front of him. He's just hanging out. All right, the next whiskey we have is the Starward 2017 at 47%. Starward is whiskey we've been seeing a lot through independent bottlers lately. Unfortunately, we don't get any distillery releases of them, but we've seen them through other bottlers. Most recently, the Turntable blended whiskey showcased a limited edition partnership with them, and now Dumangin. So this one to me is all like bubblegum and cotton candy. What are those two-tone? It's like a candy that it has like the white marshmallowy outside, kind of like the frog, but not the frog. It's the peach ring. Not fuzzy peach, but the ring. The white bottom and the peachy top is kind of foamy in your mouth. Yeah, this smells dangerous. This smells like the scotch that Barbie would drink. Like Popeye sticks, 100% Popeye sticks. Yes, Jeff. Thank you. Yeah. Igor, that's very fair. These are all like ultimate beginner whiskeys, zero burn, not overly complex, yet they all taste like something else. So it's an intense experience. You're right. They are all quite different. I didn't expect this Starward to be so candylicious, but it is. And now I don't know what my favorite is. I thought I knew going through, but I really like this. This is really different. On the palate, you do still get this like this kind of warm flavor. You know it's Scotch, like it doesn't finish like a sweet fortified wine, which I like. Yeah, this is really nice. Yeah, that sweetness, I could do that all day. There's a little bit of a spice note on the finish and a nice dryness. Like I'm salivating, but I have a little dryness on the side of my tongue. Yeah, this could be my favorite one. And the one bias I had was I knew Starward and I was not excited, and now I'm excited. So this is again why we should be excited about independent bottlers, because they can take something you may not have liked and do something completely different with it, put it in a new cask, and all of a sudden Starward is on the map again for me. So thank you, Dumangin. Very nice. Yeah, that's a really cool finish. I just could eat, I don't need cotton candy, but I could eat cotton candy while drinking this for sure. All right, the last whiskey in our lineup is the Caol Ila 2013, which is peated. No mistaking about it. You will not find an independently bottled Caol Ila that is unpeated.
You can smell it.
You can smell it. Yeah, it's salty, it's briny. It smells very Caol Ila. I'm not getting a ton of the cask influence on the nose of this one. It just smells very signature.
Yeah, I think maybe because it's still a bit young. Yeah. Like when whiskey.
2013? That's about 10 years
11 years,
old.
11 years old. But some
Yeah,
of
I assume it was bottled last year.
no, but I mean what I mean is like some of the like peated whiskey, it takes about like 20 years to mellow down, not 11
yeah.
years.
Yeah, that's true. I love Caol Ila. I honestly don't care what the age of it is. I'm going to enjoy it. But yeah, this has all that saltiness, the oyster shell, the brininess, a little bit of mustiness on the nose. The oysters, I don't know, is
Yeah,
that a little cedar?
it's like got a little bit of sweetness from like a shellfish.
I agree 100%. It just smells like the regular Caol Ila spirit. And the palate is where it changes, but still very Caol Ila, unmistakably Isla. Palate is salty and sweet, and it's like you cooked your salmon in a brown sugar glaze on a cedar board. It just has that hint of sweetness there, but still typical the Isla Scotch for me. There's a little bit of green pepper skins, like that little tannic green vegetable note that comes through. Very interesting. I'm gonna explore. There's also a little cheesiness in here that's just kind of wafting through as I breathe. Yeah, jalapeno without the heat. Just the skins of it. With water, it just kind of cuts that salty brine down. More fruit comes through with some water. I might add a second drop. Jeff says jalapeno lime cigarettes. Jim says this is the only one I have not added water to because Jim's a peat head. He likes it. Just clears the sinuses too. Hey, Jim. Yeah, it doesn't need any water. And funny enough, with a little bit of water, mustard powder. The dry mustard comes through for me. And and a little bit of oh man, what is that mustiness there? I don't know. There's a mustiness that I can't place. It's not mustard gas. I already said mustard powder. It's definitely not the gas. But like earthy something. I don't know, maybe it'll come to me as we go through a second time. Who knows? What do you think of that, Sammy?
Actually, that one is really good. Like even after I add a little bit water in it, like you say, it has a little bit like muskiness in it. I think it's like is it something similar to like the nose of a dehydrated mushroom?
Okay. Oh yeah, when you buy the jar at Costco thinking you're gonna use these dried out mushrooms, it's gonna come in handy. And then you realize it takes like an hour and a half for them to come back to life, and you're like, why did I
You
buy
need to
this?
soak it in whiskey.
Oh, that's what I should do. Yeah, because I did that, and now I'm like, these freaking mushrooms take forever to come back. What am I gonna do with a box this big? Yeah, these have been really cool. I am excited for the round 2 of these whiskeys. So let's go back to the beginning and maybe we'll do a quick. I wish I was able to adjust the polls because there's only one poll question and now I wish there were at least 2 or 3. But I'll ask you to the chat and hopefully you're available to respond. Sammy's chugging on some Magnum Irish Scottish cream in
That's
between.
water.
Yeah, sure, man, sure. I worked with you long enough to know you don't drink water. All right, back to our Zuidam Dutch Rye. After a little bit of airtime, mine's been in the glass for about an hour now. I did add no water to this one, I don't think. And to me, this smells like a wine casked whiskey now. Got a little bit of that red wine grape note. You can smell the Côte d'Aron a little bit more. Definitely rye. You get that earthy, kind of dirty root vegetable. Turnips. A little bit of beets, still licorice. Mushroom. Oh, the taste it's like
Wine.
wine, slightly bitter. It didn't need any help. It's got black licorice too on the finish, more than it did the first time round, and a little bit of that rusty nail note that Andrew would boldly say is blood. But to me, I just call it rusty nail. But it does have a little bit of that like copper penning to me now with some water and time. I added water before the second round, and I think I wish I did not add any water. Oaky wine and a herbal note. Yeah, for sure. A little bit of echinacea on the finish of this one. I like just the way it feels on my tongue reminds me of echinacea. Very interesting. Again, I feel like you could cocktail these with like and have a lot of fun with them. The next whiskey is back to bourbon. That just smells nice. Like oatmeal cookies. Like mm. Yeah. Oh, that's got a nice finish too. There's some nice sweetness there, a little ginger, sugar. Tastes like a bourbon in a wine cask.
For
I'll
me, it's
never
like
forget you, Cam. Like anytime I try a bourbon that tastes like a bourbon, I'm just like, Cam was right. Tastes like a bourbon.
yeah, for me, it's like a caramel, like no creme brulee.
Yeah, caramel creme brulee for sure. I'm getting a little bit of those dried cherry notes from like our charcuterie board, those dried out cherries. Yeah, and I'm still just like a little whiff of that like stale black licorice. Actually, what was the last licorice you brought in that brown paper bag that you had up on the shelf for a while?
It's the Aussie soft licorice.
The Aussie soft licorice. It's got a little bit of that on the finish, or it's the first whiskey rye lingering on my palate.
No, they smell different.
No, I just don't know where that licorice note is coming from. It might be coming from the rye. not sure. And this bourbon is our highest proof whiskey of the night, and it sure doesn't taste like it's 55%. That's actually one thing that I'm quite surprised by all these whiskeys. I know 40, 46 is kind of a regular place for us on these Zoom meetings. We do a lot of independently bottled things at very high proof. But this 55 does not feel like 55 anywhere on the nose or the palate. So I think the Ratafia is doing a good job at just like containing the spirit and making it approachable. Like you said in the chats, guys, like these are nice introductory whiskeys that you can just get behind and enjoy. On to the blue corn Balcones whiskey. It's definitely sweetened up on the palate. Get some pink fruits in there.
Way better the second go around.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Very inviting. Yeah, that's not bad. That's got a lot going on in there, actually. It's got some nice sweet up front. Little it's like airy,
Menthol.
minty, menthol, eucalyptus on the back end. This could be in your medicine cabinet when you're not feeling good. You could just have a little sip of this. Just cools you down.
Yeah, on the nose, for me, it's like a strawberry gummy candy.
Yeah, you do, Sammy. My medicine cabinet is amazing, and it's all
It's full of candies.
it's all scotch. It just depends if I'm seeing Dr. Glendronach tonight or Dr. Lefroy. I mean, it just depends on my symptoms. But this has some nice like dried grapefruit peel on there that I find really nice. Even a little bit of slight oiliness of orange as well. Yeah, this is very lovely. I'm quite enjoying the blue corn the second time around, and I find it more expressive with time. Where I found it a little tight the first time, I added a drop of water and moved on.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. All right. The single malt. So into single malt, changing gears into malt again. Texas single malt. This still has a kind of still in a little polish zone for me. What are you getting, Cam?
Well, I get licorice again. Seems like I'm getting licorice on the first four.
And is it black licorice?
Yeah, more like black
Yeah.
licorice.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
anise note.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. They kind of lean into, but slightly sweeter than licorice, just kind of leaning into that root beer zone.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But you're right. I agree with you. I found that licorice carrying through these spirits, and perhaps that's the cask, or maybe it's the grape must. I'm not sure what it is. Because he's always using those Côte du Rhône casks, the French oak, and then just sending them off where they need to go. It could be signature of the cask. It could be signature of the spirit itself. I'm not sure. I think I need to rely on the Ratafia drinkers to tell me, is licorice a note that typically comes through? Because my reading was that it started out as kind of nutty, and then over time it leaned into some like raspberry red fruit notes. And then this one being the Ratafia de Champagne, it's like it's a little bit more on the fruit brown sugar side. So maybe this is just the high proof of the spirit that's causing these reactions. No licorice and Ratafia that I've had. Okay, cool. So it's just the spirits themselves. I like it though. I used to be a big black jube fan when I was young. I always had to, having lots of siblings who always fought over our favorite colors of the jubes, and I just tapped out and was like, I'll just eat all the black ones. Which is funny because I don't like root beer. I know, they're not the best. The finish is quite drying and definitely goes into that licorice tone, but there's still a little bit of polish on this one that I was getting in the first round, a little furniture polish of some sort that I just was hoping would go away, but it didn't for me. To India, second pass through on the potential Paul John, and it is the region, the Gao region, or Goa, pardon my pronunciation. I've never traveled and I'm quite ignorant, but it's Paul John. I know that.
It's so different than the first four.
It's
So
different.
obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the malts. And although, I mean, presumably this India whiskey isn't likely much older than this Texas whiskey, its climate will cause a faster maturation, somewhat to like the Taiwanese whiskey. It has a subtropical climate for the single malt, so they could infer that it's aging 3 times faster than Scotland, perhaps. So I mean, at minimal 3 years old for this Paul John, they could claim it's like around an 8, 9, 10-year-old single malt, which would be vastly different than like a Texas 3-year-old whiskey, or even a Caol Ila 3-year-old whiskey. But yeah, you can tell we've changed gears from our like bourbons and ryes, and we're into something different.
Yeah, maybe I've just had enough to drink and I'm starting to feel it now. But the note I got here is, remember when you were a little kid and you had those pencil crayons and you used to sharpen them?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
I still do that. I still sharpen my pencil crayons. Yeah, I could see that. It's not the lead
No.
pencil. It's a colored pencil for sure.
It's very cheesy note.
Yeah. Kevin, Jeff, if you're ever feeling nostalgic for one of those hand crank pencil sharpeners, we have one at Kensington Wine Market because we like to keep it classic and classy. This has like definitely a drier palate up front. Almost like linens to me. Like it has like a wet linen soaked in tea. I mean, it's funny when I say that, I just pictured myself like sucking on a towel that's like dipped in tea, but that's what it feels like. Like a cotton sheet and some tea and a little bit of pencil shavings. Jeff says it's peaches and cream instant oatmeal. Oatmeal is good. I get oatmeal. Yes, I am weird. I've owned that since day one.
Yeah, for me, it's like a London fog, I order from Starbucks.
No way. No
But-
way. This is definitely not sweet enough for a
But
Starbucks.
not as sweet, okay? But like, the tea and
Like,
the milky, like the
take out
creaminess.
They didn't put the pumps in and there's no foam. Oatmeal with carrot shavings. Give it up, Kevin. There's no carrots here. Although, I mean, who doesn't like carrots? That's really interesting. I like the finish. It's a cool dram. Starward, to my favorite nose. Oh my God, it's so much candy still. Where's Evan? Evan would love this. This is this is the surprise of the lineup for me. Well, there's quite a few surprises, but this one,
Hey, Harmony, you still have your cotton candy machine?
yeah. Wait.
We should make whiskey cotton candy.
Oh no, I sold it. I sold it to a nice lady for her movie nights. But I can get another one. We should make whiskey cotton candy. Because that machine can turn any candy, even sugar-free candy, into cotton candy.
That's gonna taste awful.
I know it wouldn't, because it just melts back into what it is. So it just melt back into whiskey.
Yeah, but sugar-free candy, they only use natural sugar. It's all synthetic stuff.
I know. It's hard. It's like a super hard cotton candy. It's not the good kind. Buy it back, says Jeff. He's like, you have 5 weeks to buy it back and have cotton candy ready for me. Pencil shaving cotton candy, says Vincent. So funny. For some reason, I find like the alcohol when you stick your nose in this to be a little bit sharper than the other whiskeys, and I think that's probably just the age of the spirit. Hasn't quite mellowed out in the cask, but it just gets me a little bit in the sinuses more than the other ones have.
This was my favorite the first go around, but it's not now.
It's changed quite a bit on the
It has.
palate. Yeah. The first nose, it's like, ooh, it's all candy. And then underneath, to me, it gets a little bit more resiny, a little sharper. You can taste that youthful Australian malt. The palate, it's not as vibrant as it was the first time. Yeah. Also, I added water, so don't do that. Vincent's reiterating, pencil shaving cotton candy. Yeah, okay, I agree. It's there. Yeah. Yeah. But there's some nice like fruit notes in there, which is very lovely. Yes, to those of you on the chat reminiscing about the weekend, thank you all for coming to the Rare and Old Whiskey Festival. It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but it was so wonderful to see all of you in person and to share in an experience that will be hard to beat. I'm gonna have a very hard time smelling whiskeys and not, comparing them to some of those spirits that we had, but what a great time. All right, the Caol Ila is the last in our second round, our peated Scotch whiskey.
It'll smell like peach.
Still smells like peat.
That's why
Hasn't
the
changed
nigga.
a whole lot.
No, that's why the nigga told me to shut the door.
This one, you opened it, cracked your sample, and shut the door.
Yes.
Ah, rude. Although I relate, because that's how Tony was until he tried Lafroig, and now he loves Lafroig and can surprisingly pick out its DNA in any cask, but he has no idea that he's doing it. Which is hilarious.
Wow. You've converted Tony.
Yes, well, he tried the Kensington Wine Market Elements cask, the sherry elements,
I remember.
and he just fell in love and compared everything peated to that cask and basically called everything burning garbage. If it wasn't that,
Do you still have a bottle of that?
I got one as a housewarming when we moved a couple of years ago. So I think I can see in the cupboard there's about this much left of that second bottle. And then we were doing a virtual tasting, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but we had a IB Lafroig, and I was like, oh, he's gonna love it. Completely different cask type, 100% bourbon. I was like, hey, you should try this. You should smell it. And he took one tiny sniff and he said, that smells like my whiskey, meaning Lafroig sherry. And I was like, wow, he knows the DNA. even though it's not the same cask. And it's like, he does. I brought home a sample of a bunch of IBs and OB Lefroy's and was like, what do you think of these? And he's like, they're all the same. Even though they were all different, he's like, they're all the same.
It's like bourbon.
Yeah. Tony and Scotch, it's all the same. But it's good. He's coming around. I offered to buy him a bottle of Crown Royal, and he looked at me sideways, and I was like, yes, he's growing. He's like, don't bring that home. I was like, I will not do that. All right, sorry guys, I got sidetracked there. My apologies. Caol Ila, Dumangin. It's slightly less oyster.
It's good, but it's not special. It's a Caol Ila. Right?
Caol Ila, like it's almost like the cask isn't even there. It's just Caol Ila. It doesn't have the same influence, the Dumangin, on this whiskey. And I'm curious, as Sammy said, like young Caol Ila is young Caol Ila, and I'm wondering if this young Caol Ila peat is just dominating the heck out of this barrel. Yeah.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it's Caol Ila. What's not to love? All right, I'm going to launch our poll. Evan created one question tonight, and that question is first favorite of the night. And you don't get a second favorite, but if you have a second favorite that you must give a shout out to, please do so in the chat. This was a really wonderful lineup. Sammy, what was your first favorite and what was your second favorite?
Well, the first one is actually the Starward.
Okay.
I actually like that one, yeah. And then my second one is the Bourbon with a 36% rye.
Okay. I could see that. Oh man. Nosing these they've already changed again. This is not fair. Originally I would have agreed with you that the Starward was my favorite, but now I think my favorite is one of the bourbons. I don't know which one. They're both very good.
I even like the Dutch rye. That's really good too.
The Dutch rye, I think, is my second.
And the blue corn really finished well. I didn't like it initially, but I really quite liked it.
I think I agree with you, Cam. I think the blue corn might be my favorite on the second round and my third pass here. I think that was my favorite. The rye was really good, but I also think that Texas is bringing me around as well.
The single malt?
The Texas single malt. Yeah. It's surprising me a little bit. Where it's taking me, I don't know, but okay. Blue corn, then the Dutch rye. And if I had to pick a third, I think I can't. And it's a tie between the Texas and the Paul John for me. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Harmony.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very surprised with this lineup. It was I'm happy with the cask influence. It wasn't over dominating, I didn't find. As someone said in the chats earlier, they felt very approachable, very entry level, very smooth. But then they still, like, the single malts felt like single malts, and the other ones, like the spirits, the ryes and grains, and they felt like it. And I thought it was really good.
Do you have prices for these, or are any of them available?
They are all available. I have prices. I'm happy to share them with you. Sorry, I haven't done the screen sharing. I'm just not used to hosting. I'm always I'm the plan. I'm not going to say plan.
You're the sidekick.
I'm the sidekick. Yeah. Okay, so the Dumangins for tonight, I'll try to go in order, guys, of what we have. We have one person waiting to vote. So the Dutch Rye, 169.99. The Bourbon, 179.99. Oops, sorry for the noise. The Balcones Blue Corn is 199.99. Texas single malt. We're selling.
I think it's the same, 199.99.
Oh, 199. Pardon me. Maybe I gave the wrong price. 179. I don't know. Wait, let me see. Sorry, guys. Yeah, they're both 199.99. Thanks, Sammy. The India malt, 199.99. The Starward is 174.99, and our Caol Ila is 214.99. Yeah, interesting. Those are not inexpensive whiskeys
No, and if you think about it as being, entry level,
in flavor.
yes, and flavor, that's pretty pricey.
It is. It's shocking, but a part of me is like, okay, so they've done the math on Cote du Rhone casks. Then you ship your cask across the ocean, you get it filled, you wait, you fill them there, you ship them back, and you have a champagne spirit. I think part of the pricing here is they're really just capitalizing on that French champagne category and designation. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with them, but they were very enjoyable
They were.
whiskeys. The results of our poll tonight, we have 4 ties. We have a tie between the Caol Ila, the India, the Texas single malt, and the Zuidam Rye. So, and then the second place, according to the poll for first place, would be the Starward and the Balcones Blue Corn. Really interesting. All those ties, but I suppose when you only have 10 people voting, that's likely to happen. Whoever posted all the links, thank you. I had like one master link, but Jeff is taking his place back as a keyboard warrior, and I appreciate that. Exactly. Or Sammy just did the post that I thought, could have been done easier, but brains are beauty, and Jeff and Sammy have proven that there's both out there. Thank you guys for joining our short and sweet tasting tonight. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you pick up a bottle of Dumangin whiskey and share it with your friends. If not now, later down the road. Thank you everyone for coming out. Cam, it was so good to see you, and I hope we see you at the bourbon tasting.
Oh, you will.
Although, is there a bourbon you haven't had now that you're so worldly?
Still working on it.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. Thanks Sammy for co-hosting
Yeah,
with
thanks,
me.
Harmony. Yeah.
And I'll
Good
see
job.
you at 7 a.m.
Thank
Good job, Harmony.
Thanks, Cam. Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sammy co-hosting.